what are we going to see today? Today we are going to see bureaucracy at the front office. So PS, alloggiati web, ISTAT, fiscal arguments, fatturazione elettronica, IVA. Okay, I'm going to annoy you today. If you are ready, I'm going to annoy you today. GDPR regulation. And we are starting to see the front office shift with the front office morning shift today. I was checking if, no. Okay, let's go. Okay, any one of you already heard about PS Alloggiati Web? I think someone last time told me DC.
Yes,
Vero?
I'm a bit familiar about ISTAT and alloggiati.
Okay. In Italy, regarding regulation for the security, we have some bureaucracy affair to do at the front office. The most important of this is PS Alloggiati Web. So all the hotels, B&B, all the accommodation should register their guests with the police. This is done through the online system called Alloggiati Web. This system is active since I think 2015, something like that. Before of this, when I was working at the hotel, we used to register every guest. And to every guest, we gave a piece of paper. So the guest was going to sign that the information of his document were correct. And then every 1-2 weeks, we were going to the police with this big package of paper. And we told to the police, okay, I have 500 guests registered. Okay. They put a stamp and that's done. But as you can understand, it's not easy to check the piece of paper. Okay, so they decided to introduce this system, which is called Alloggiati Web, in order to have an automatic and electronic system to communicate personal data of the guest and check immediately if there is someone to be signed. Okay, for example, someone that the police is looking for, or someone with a false ID or anything like that. Okay, so when the guest is doing the check-in, we must collect the personal information. Then we will see which kind of information we should collect. Then, if the guest for the law is staying less than 24 hours, so for example, one night stay, the hotel or the host should communicate immediately this kind of information, okay? Why? Because if it's someone that the police is looking for, if he's staying just one night, they have the time to see this information and go to the hotel and find for these people. For all the other guests, the communication is mandatory not later than 24 hours. So not later than the day of arrival, the hotel should communicate all the arrivals with all the documents and datas. Otherwise, there should be some penalty, economical also, for the hotel. So that is very important. That's why it's one of the most important thing to do, because this electronic system, if you try to communicate later than 24 hours, it can permit to put the information inside. So, as written, it has to be done within 24 hours of the guest arrival or immediately for short stay. And so this system helps to ensure the public safety. and keep official records of people staying in accommodation. This is an example of the screen of Alloggiati web system. So every hotel, when they ask for the license to open the hotel, will have also a license for Alloggiati web from the Questura, which is one department of the police, is higher than the local police. Will give to the hotel a license number and the credentials to enter this kind of website. After that, it depends on the PMS, or it depends on the kind of accommodation. It could be charged manually. So, like this example, we can fill manually all the datas. Or for the most of PMS, they produce a file, a text file, which is containing all the mandatory information regarding arrivals. Another system could be always from the PMS, direct sending from this PMS the information to the Alloggiati web. So you don't have to enter another website and put the information or the file inside. So for every arrival guest, you should put all the personal data in every box, as you can see here. On the right, we can see last activity and a button to download the receipt. Because after communicating all the arrivals of the day after in the website, you can collect a receipt. It's like when you go personally to the police, as I told you before, and they say, okay, you sent me 500 guests. Okay, it's like a stamp of the police that the hotel must collect for 5 years. To have this receipt, they have correctly communicated this information. These are the data we should fill into the Alloggiati web. So if you have the PMS, I think that for the 90% of accommodation type, there's always a PMS. So it doesn't have to be put manually on the Alloggiati web. First of all, last name and name, sorry, like Rossi Mario. Sex, so it's male or female. Date of birth. Birthplace. Citizen, Italian citizen in this type. Document type. The licensed document type, so the valid document type are identity card, driving license, and passport. There are hotels that accept also other kind of personal ID. But for the law, personal accepted ID could be only these 3 types: ID card, driving license, and passport. Document number, authority who gave the document, release date of the document, expiry is not mandatory, so only the release date. And then the stay date. Okay, so for the Alloggiati web, it's mandatory to communicate the arrival date. Also is just a forecast information, okay? It's mandatory to say which is the departure date, but this information, as you know, can change. And the alloggiato type, which means the kind of arrival we are communicating. Alloggiato type could be ospite singolo, so single guest, capofamiglia, which is the head of the family, group member, and also group leader. Because for Italian law, for the Alloggiati web, if you are traveling alone, okay, if it's only one people in the room, you should fill all these data. So the guest should give you the complete document. While if you are traveling with your family or, for example, with a friend, 4 people in the room, only one of these should give the complete document, while the other will be part of the family, okay? It used to say capofamiglia when it's the person giving the complete document, and familiari, the rest of the people staying in the room. So, for example, they should not give the number of the document, type of the document, so just the main information. And also for the group, if you're having a group with group leader, which is not mandatory to be the head of the group. It must be one person of the group, should give the complete document, and for all the other part of the group, they are group members called membri del gruppo, should give just the mandatory information. So it's like from cognome till cittadinanza, and yes, from cognome till cittadinanza. The other data is just for ospite singolo, capofamiglia, and group leader. Okay, this is an example of the Italian ID card. So we can see all the data we must collect. This is the UE flag, like for the European identity card. Now for Italy, from the 6th of August, all the old identity card will expire. So all the citizens will have to ask for the electronic ID card, otherwise the old one won't work anymore. In the right corner here up, you can find the number of the ID card. So if you're looking for ID card number for the Italian card, it's this one, numero di serie del documento. Then we will find name and last name, place and date of birth, sex, nationality. This is the date of issuing. We won't need the date of expire, but it's always good to check if the ID hasn't expired. Which are the main data. This is the front side of the electronic Italian ID card. Then there is the back side. What we are going to see on the back side. Fiscal code, codice fiscale, which in Italy you need a fiscal code most of all for all public bureaucracy, for hospital, for medicines, for everything in the public administration. So codice fiscale means the fiscal code. This is not a data which is mandatory for Alloggiati Web. But this, we'll then see also the fattura, could be useful for the electronic fattura. This place, so this side, is a special side that could be written from OCR reader. For example, when you do the check-in at the airport, you know that the lady who's checking you will check the document into a small scanner. This small scanner is called OCR, so it's a special scanner. It's not like the photocopy scanner. It's a scanner specific for a ID card or passport, which is going to read this side, and this side is a special for this kind of machine. So this side for the OCR will permit to read all the information of the back side and of the front side. Okay, is everything clear for the PS? For who's going to have the season at the front office, this is one of the main tasks, mandatory main tasks.
Yes, it's very clear, but I have one question, Stefan.
T.
So, for example, for the hotels which receive the international guest, so
Non
how
ho
they,
capito. Can you repeat?
For the hotels which receive the international guest, the guests from other countries.
And you have to give that country ID card or passport.
Ah, okay.
Okay, this is just an example for the Italian one, but for
Okay.
every other nationality is valid always passport, ID card, not always driving license. The most two valid it's ID card and passport. And you will see that in every country's ID card, number, expiry are completely in different place. I remember that, for example, in my opinion, one of the most difficult to find information is the Romanian, I think, Romanian ID card. Because, for example, the date of birth, it's together with expiry of the ID card. So it's quite difficult to read this data. Ok, ISTAT. So, Chiara, Timmy mi hai detto, vero che hai già sentito parlare dell'Istat?
Sì, sì.
Okay. ISTAT it's another things which is mandatory to do at the front office. In Italy, hotels and other accommodation must give statistical report about their guests to ISTAT. ISTAT means Italian National Institute of Statistics. Why they must give this information? Because the purpose of this registration is to help government to understand tourism trends. So, to invest money in tourism for one period to another, how many tourists are visiting this region, where they come from. So, especially for statistic purpose, but not only. Since in Italy we introduced the tassa di soggiorno, so the city tax, this kind of information is useful also to check if hotels correctly paid the city tax. Okay, so they check, they cross-check the ISTAT and the resume of city tax payment to check if the information is correct. So if the hotel has paid more or less. Every time the guests stay at the hotel, we are going to register the number of guests, the nationality or country of residence, and the number of night stays. So as the PS, we are going to charge in a special website, but this for ISTAT is not the same for all Italy. While the PS Alloggiati Web is one website for all the Italy, ISTAT depends on the region. Sì, sì, vai pure, Neda, tranquilla. Okay, so for every region there is a different ISTAT. For example, in Veneto is called Turismo 5, in Puglia is called I can't remember. It's called Pay Tourist, which is also to communicate data for tassa di soggiorno, ISTAT Sicilia. There are a lot of different kind of ISTAT, but the most of the region are slowly introducing the same system, which is Turismo 5, is the most known for the ISTAT. Okay, so what do we have to do? At least at the end of the month, so one time a month, we should charge a file or electronically send by the PMS this information to the ISTAT. Okay, another thing, documento RT. Have you heard about RT scontrino? Scontrino, I think, yes. If you are in Italy, scontrino, I think it's you used to hear this.
Yeah, especially after, for example, for me, when I work at the restaurant now, we
Mhm.
do the first, and then we have to do the next process is to do the scontrino, which is the final process of the closing of the casa, kind of.
Esatto, esatto. So scontrino is, in the photo you have an example. Scontrino is the fiscal document that we give to the guest when he have paid. In Italy, we have two types of document. First, we are going to see documento RT, which is called scontrino. It's called scontrino. Now I'm going to explain you because these things has changed in 2019. So it's like a piece of paper with a resume of the payment that you can keep just for example, if you buy something like a smartphone, you can keep this for the guarantee and etc. Before 2019, every kind of bar, restaurant, hotel, etc., used to have like a big calculator which was going to produce the scontrino. Okay, so at the end of the day, for example, you had 2,000 total amount of scontrino. The administration then should fill a register with every single scontrino, so €3, 50, €50, €15, who was called corrispettivi. Registro dei corrispettivi, don't know if you have ever heard. It's like a book when the administration was going to write down every detail of this scontrino for the day and also to check if the number, because they have to be consequently 1, 2, 3, 4, don't skip a number, if the total was correct. And then at the end of the month, I think, they should communicate to the fiscal Italian system, Agenzia delle Entrate, then in order to calculate the tax to pay after, okay. From 2019, the Italian government decided to introduce RT machine, which is like a box. Is not anymore similar to the other was called, come si chiamava? Prima, macchina fiscale. I don't remember anymore. So now it's like a smaller box. But the difference now is that at the end of the day, automatically, this system is connected electronically to Agenzia delle Entrate. So at the end of the day, automatically, you don't have to fill registro dei corrispettivi. At the end of the day, at midnight, there's an operation which is called chiusura, and it's going to communicate directly the amount to the Agenzia delle Entrate. This is also a system introduced to avoid the missing operation of doing scontrino, okay, to avoid paying less taxes, okay. So this system is called RT, registratore telematico, telematical system. The device records every sale and automatically sends the sales to the Italian Revenue Agency. So when the customer is paying, for example, also for the hotel stay, the RT system issues a digital receipt. Now it's also a piece of paper, but I think then from 2027, it will be just electronical, so just digital. At the end of the day, the machine will transmit automatically the daily sales. The system helps the government to monitor business transactions and ensure correct tax reporting. From the 1st January of 2026 of this year, it's also mandatory for all commercial activities, hotel, restaurants, anyone, to connect every POS, the machine where you register the payment with the credit card, to the RT in order to check if the total amount of electronic payment corresponds to the RT total, okay? always to avoid tax fraud, missing tax payment. It's just always to check if you are paying your taxes, okay? They say that also reduces paper receipts and simplifies the process. In fact, the administration also for the hotels, it's much convenient because it's electronic system and it reduces the time of checking all the data. Then we have fatturazione elettronica. All businesses in Italy must issue electronic invoice for most of the transaction. The system is called fatturazione elettronica. So also this system is quite new because it was introduced in 2018. Before of this, there was just a paper invoice. Okay, now it's electronic system, so it's a digital invoice which is generated through an XML format. So it's like a text file which contains all the mandatory data charged into the SDI, Sistema di Interscambio. So at the checkout, the guest will ask you to prepare fattura. Why he will ask fattura? Because, for example, if I go 3 night stay for my company, so for work, my company will deduct the taxes payment of all these charges, okay, for me. So I will give all the information of my company in order to produce the fattura at the checkout. This system, which is an electronic system, will send automatically the fattura, the invoice to my company, even if I can ask a paper copy of this. In Italy, we always used to ask for a paper copy of this because we are very used to paper times, okay? So then this system, which is called the Sistema di Interscambio, will check if the invoice is correct, if mandatory data is correct, if partita IVA VAT number is correct, and delivers to the customer, so to the company. Also, private person like me, if I go to the veterinary for my pets or for special things, I can ask a fattura. So then every year I can try to pay less taxes. Okay, I can try to do like a compensation of the taxes. So this system, like for the RT, allows the tax authority to monitor transaction and reduce tax evasion. Electronic invoices make also the process faster, more transparent, and easy to store. Why? Because all the XML files are stored automatically into a system and should be stored, I think, for 10 years. So every company should store their fatture for 10 years. Now all the PMS have an electronic system, so you just have to fill the information and then everything sent automatically. Which are mandatory data if the guest asks for fattura? Ragione sociale. Ragione sociale is the name of the company. In my occasion, I work for Zucchetti Hospitality. So Ragione sociale, it's Zucchetti Hospitality, SRL, SPA, or something like that. The address, which is not the operation address, but is the fiscal address. Partita IVA, VAT number. Codice fiscale, if necessary, it's not always necessary because for companies, in the most of cases, it's the same of partita IVA. And SD code. The SD code, it's a code to send the XML invoice through Sistema di Interscambio. Every company may choose a different SD partner in order to collect and send fatture elettroniche. So every company could have a different SD code. This is mandatory to send successfully the fattura. For foreign guests, SD code is not a requested field for public administration. There are also additional mandatory data. So for foreign guests, like if a Germany guest asks you for fattura, they can give you that number, ragione sociale, and everything, but SD code is not necessary because for foreign guests, the SD system won't check this kind of code. Public administration like universities, hospital, and something like that will also give additional information in order to issue fattura. Just for information, otherwise I'm going to annoy you a little bit more. When a fattura is produced and some correction should be done to give back an amount, wrong data or something like that, it needs to do a nota di credito, credit note. So fattura, it's the document, it's the positive document which is issued. For the correction, negative correction, the credit note is like the opposite. When you will hear nota di credito is the opposite of a fattura. Okay, l'IVA. L'IVA is the VAT. You know the VAT also in your country. In Italy is called IVA. Stands for value added tax. Tax applied to most goods and services in Italy. When the hotel sells a service, for example, room for one night, the price usually includes IVA. In Italy, we always includes the VAT. Just particular cases doesn't include, for example, meeting services. When we do a meeting offer, we don't use to include the VAT. We always say IVA esclusa. So the example, the room costs 100 euro plus IVA. The guest pays the total amount and the hotel keeps the service price but transfer the IVA portion to the tax authorities. So this is not a money that goes to the hotel. It's money said.
I can't hear you.
Mi senti?
Back,
Sì,
okay.
sì, ho giusto.
Ok, perfetto. Usually all the hotel services add with 10% IVA. So for hotels, most of services are 10%. Meeting services and some extra services are with 22% IVA. Meeting services and also services that the hotels asks for outside service, like transfer, laundry if they have external laundry service or some of this service. Or also spa service.
Sorry,
are you-
Stefania, isn't the transportation a thing that is for hotel itself? Do they have it from outside?
It depends on the hotel.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Also, for the spa, for example, hotels with spa has to ask for 22% VAT if you are external guest, but if you are hotel guest, you pay 10% VAT. It's different also from the type of service, but most of the service 10%. The room is 10% service, restaurant is 10% service. GDPR. GDPR is a European law. Are you annoyed enough today? See?
No,
We are
I like
getting.
the topics.
Okay. Okay. So GDPR is a European law that protects people, personal data, and privacy. This is also a new regulation from 2019, more or less. It applies to all businesses and organizations that collect or process personal information. So, hotel is a business which collect and process personal information. Personal data may include information such as guest name, ID or passport details, phone number, email addresses, payment information, which are also called dati sensibili. Hotel must collect only the necessary data, store it securely, and use it only for legitimate purposes. For example, check-in, alloggiati web, ISTAT, invoicing, or legal obligation. If they use personal data for uses that the guests will not permit, they can have to pay a penalty or they can have a penal process. Guests also have the rights under the GDPR, so they can ask to see personal data, request corrections, or ask it for to be deleted when possible. This special operation, so to delete the guest's personal data as to GDPR regulation in hotel environment, is called anonimizzazione. Anonimizzazione is a procedure to hide in the PMS personal data of the guests. So the hotel will have the same all the information regarding historical reservation and everything. But all personal data is hidden, so they can't find anymore this kind of data. So the goal of the GDPR is to ensure transparency, security, and respect for people privacy when their data is used. This is very important because if you are communicating information of the guest and the guest give not the permission, in Italy, the economical penalty may also be of 4% of the yearly revenue. So it's very high. Okay, we will start with the front office morning shift. It's much fun, I think.
Stefania, can I ask a question? But
Sì.
how can they understand that they are not following GDPR?
So, for the GDPR regulation, every hotel should have a head of the GDPR, so a people which is in charge to produce regulation, internal regulation for the hotel, check if the GDPR is respected and all the procedures. But then the government could sometimes check if the procedure is respected. In my experience, when the hotels knows that he doesn't follow this regulation. For example, if I go in a hotel with a person which is not my husband, but it's some other people, ok? Come si dice in inglese? I'm cheating my husband, ok? At the check-in, the hotel must ask you if you give the consent of register data and store the data for other stays. Pacific, sì, è vero. The consents to send marketing communication and the consent to, for example, pass through a telephone call in the hotel. I must have the possibility to say no for all the options. But then, if you wrongly register this information, most of them is collected electronically, so it is safe. But if you, for example, give me a piece of paper and I report wrongly this kind of information, for example, I've cheated my husband, okay, everything, nobody says that. Then after 10 days to my email or to my address, I receive marketing communication from the hotel. My husband will discover I've cheated him. I didn't give the consent to send marketing information, and so I can do, come si dice,
You can sue.
Posso denunciare, posso fare la causa all'hotel, ok? So I can say I didn't give you the permission. Show me that I signed the permission to send me information. And then avvocato, causa, so they are going to pay a lot of money to finish all this. But then if the government will check if GDPR regulation is respected, it's like 4% of the year revenue. So for a company who makes 1 billion euros per year, it's for, la matematica, 4% sul fatturato. Okay, help me in mathematics. I'm not very good in it. Okay, so it's very important. Even for my experience, not every hotel accommodation is going correctly to respect all of this. But it's everything fine if nothing happened. The problem is when this happens, okay? This is shit, okay? Ok, so andiamo avanti. Morning shift. The front office first morning thing you have to do, is the shift handover. This is fundamental. The handover is the moment when the night auditor, so it's the colleague which has done the night shift, passes information, tasks, and responsibilities to the front office morning operator. It ensures that the next person knows what happened and what still needs to be done. That is crucial to have the up-to-date situation if something in particular is happened or needs to be managed or something during the night happened. And that if there are tasks for the day to complete except to routine day duties. Mi sono impaperata. How the shift and handover can be done? Different instruments. In my opinion, good method is Google Calendar. When I was working at the hotel, any one of us was putting a note into Google Calendar with the afternoon shift, morning shift, night shift. So the other person going to the shift was reading all the notes, everything. So if I was missing 2 days, it's just enough. I read all the notes and I'm up to date. So for everything, because otherwise you won't be up to date if there are tasks, people coming, messages to give, that it's fundamental in my opinion. Also with a piece of paper, but it's better Google see notes, text file or anything. And it's convenient also because if I want to anticipate my job in the morning, for example, I can open Google Calendar and be updated for the afternoon. Departure and bills check. Important for having the situation under control, to check departure guest list, to see if there are something in particular to organize, transfer to book or to recall, wake up call, or something needs to be advised to the housekeeping staff. So second thing is to check the list of bills, departure, if everything's checked and correct. This is a double check of departures because normally on the front office evening shift, you already checked the day after departures. But it's better to check again if they are correctly seated, setted, nor seated, if the amount is correct, if any deposit needs to be deducted, if there are virtual cards or bills to be charged to companies or agencies, and also pre-authorization to be cancelled. Okay, so it's always a good practice to double check departures and bills. This is an example for a departure list. Okay, so it depends on the PMS, but most of all have all this information and all the bills, if bills with the extras, with the rooms to be paid for the company, with virtual card and something like that. Okay. Third, housekeeping report check. One of the first things is check the housekeeping report if it has been printed from the night shift, if the information are correct, if in the meantime some guests have checked out, okay, if there are early checkout, I should say, okay, this guest already left the room. Or if there are any changes in departures, extended stay, earlier departures than the date, or something like that. Also checking if work instruments are ready to be given, because usually the housekeeping staff at the morning shift will come to the reception, bring the housekeeping report and all the instruments like keys, passepartout, walkie-talkie, etc. This is an example of housekeeping list. We always used to print housekeeping lists. So you see the room number, type of room, if it's busy or empty, if needs to be the beds changed, to change also the towels and something like that. The arrivals check. After having checked all duties regarding departures, we have to check arrivals. So if all the rooms are ready, so if the reservation data is correct, so in order also in high season to avoid overbooking. Okay, we spoke about overbooking last time. Usually front office, we also have to check if all arrivals are guaranteed, if the hotel is busy, to check if credit card is valid, prepayments is okay, or if a guest is repeater, to call the guest and say, everything okay? Are you coming tonight? We are waiting for you. Okay. Tutto okay. Okay. This is an example for the arrivals list, similar to departure, but contains just the arrival. Now it's 10 minutes to 2. I won't put everything together. So we're going to see daily revenue check and the checkout next time, because I want to see if you have domande, questions. So we will see the rest of the slide for next time. Did you enjoy also the first part today?
Scusa,
Yes, of
I
course.
did really, but I have a question, Stefania.
See?
So when in my experience in a hostel, it was a ostello, it was a smaller one. The front office, back office was the receptionist, so we did everything. When in the morning after checkout, the cleaners, the housekeeping, they clean, they organize. If there is a mistake and we didn't realize it, and we check they are gone, we do it ourselves because it's a must, right? But how is this going to happen in a five-star hotel, where the receptionist is needed to be in a certain position, one, and the room, I don't know, how does it go? It's kind of stressful if something happens to the room. Usually the
No,
receptionist
so
checks or there's a checker.
no, in resorts, in 4 up to 5 star hotels and in big accommodations, there is always another afternoon shift for the housekeeping, which is called couverture. Couverture is also for 5 star hotels. So in the afternoon, the housekeeping staff is present. So if there are any mistakes, they can fix and clean the room. And also in a high-level hotel, the couverture is when the late afternoon, the guests they get an app, sorry. And cover tour consists in fixing the bed and like to put something like chocolate for the night or something to say good night to the guests. So there's always another shift or longer shift. It's not only the morning.
Okay. Okay.
Tutto chiaro? Qualche altra domanda?
Stefania, I want to ask a question because it's, I think, a bit related to this, let's say, issue. I mean, housekeeping and etc. Do we have day use as well in five-star hotels or four-star hotels?
Depends on where the hotel is located. It could be, but they use is especially 3 and 4 stars of hotel, not in resorts, just in business hotels. And if they have a lot of they use, they will have for sure and housekeeping staff also for the afternoon cleaning, so they can resell the room because they use usually you do a discount in the room, 10% discount, for example.
Okay, thank you.
Ok, allora ragazzi, se non ci sono altre domande, we finish here for this time.